If you are sensitive to graphic content or images, you should turn off this program now. No one should view this on a full stomach. The very picture of little baby Juju face Poos Poos Seidler that we show is known to cause negative effects on all that see it. I'll pray for your soul.
East Coast Horror Group.
They're here.
Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
East Coast Horror Group presents Dead Eye Movie Reviews.
Salutations and mutilations. You're listening to East Coast Horror Group presents Dead On Movie Reviews. Tonight, we will present horror movie reviews and lively debate here on EastCoastHorrorGroup.com and on future select Tuesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can join our live chat right now by clicking on the live show links at EastCoastHorrorGroup.com. I'm your host, Tim Kretschmann, coming to you from the east coast of Lake Michigan. It's my honor to introduce the Faculty of Fear panel presenting tonight's lectures. And we're going to start with our columnist, Adam Holtzapfel. He's a hardcore East Coast Horror Group fan and columnist. His text articles and other content is the newly formed backbone to our website. And he's here now for his second time here on Dead On Movie Reviews. It's Adam Holtzapfel. Hello, Adam.
Hey, Tom. How's it going?
Hey, we're really glad to have you tonight. We didn't give you much notice, and oddly, you happen to have seen a horror movie recently, so that was helpful.
Yeah, I'd checked out Peter Jackson's Meet the Feebles recently.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about that in just a moment. And also on tonight's show is everybody likes to call him by his nickname, Little Baby Drew Face Poos Poos Seidler. Hello, Drew. How are you?
Hello, Tim. Thanks for the introduction, as always. But I hope you die.
Thank you for that. We do want to say that off campus tonight is our founder, Michael Exler, not able to come in for tonight's program, but we wish him all the best. But he wanted me to play something. He wanted me to play something very special. I just have to find it because I put it in a good spot. Oh, geez. Where did I put this dang thing? Okay, I'm just going to hit this button and see what happens. And, of course, it didn't work. That's awesome. Unbelievable.
This is professional, people.
You know what it is? I hit the wrong button. But we should tell everybody there is a new podcast. Otherworldly Cultural Radio is available. And that is out on the East Coast Horror Group website. But we also want to show you this. Please read the right thing. Here we go.
Toy-Hio. We're coming to Toy-Hio. We're gonna sell toys. Toy-Hio. I hope diaper shoes don't fuck it up by pooping in the aisleway. Diaper shoes.
Yes, Toy-Hio, that's coming up very soon, so make sure to check that out and tell them Little Mikey sent you, And I'm sure they'll do absolutely nothing for you, but it'll be a good time just the same. All right, we're gonna get things going because we like to keep things at a high pace of speed because it's almost impossible for me to keep up that way. We're gonna start with Adam. Adam, what have you been watching?
Well, like I said, Meet the Feebles from Peter Jackson. It's his second feature film following Bad Taste. Came out in '89. It was written with a lot of his co-workers, Dead Alive and the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
So this is not part of the Lord of the Rings trilogy?
I mean, I consider it a better movie than The Hobbit. That's just my taste. So basically,
actually, Adam, that's empirical. That is empirical. Everybody knows this is better than The Hobbit.
It won 15 Academy Awards. Shut up.
It did not win 15 Academy Awards. The Hobbit did not
Meet
win
the
15
Feebles got
Academy
robbed.
Awards.
No, The Hobbit didn't. But Return of the King.
Meet the Feebles was pretty close. Was pretty close to getting a number of Academy Awards, but because it was made in Australia, it was unfairly discriminated against.
It looks like a Jim Henson movie. I've never even heard of this before.
Oh, well, let Adam continue his review.
Yeah, so basically this is the Muppets on crack. The Feebles is a variety show much like the Muppets, but this explores kind of the underbelly behind the scenes of it. You have a lizard that throws knives that's addicted to heroin. You have behind the scenes pornos being made featuring the characters of the show. It's just all around family fun.
There's puppet porn?
There is puppet porn, yes. Yes.
And they were just showing I remember there being a lot of vomiting in this film by one of the puppets. So yeah.
A lot of vomiting and elephant shooting a jizz-like substance. It's fun for the whole family.
Jizz-like.
Jizz-like, yes.
But can you get this in full 4K HDR?
No, you don't really need it in full 4K HDR. This is I believe it's out of print. I'm not 100% sure on that, but
right.
It's definitely a cult classic where most people, you mention Peter Jackson, they'll say Dead Alive, The Frighteners, Lord of the Rings,
King
whatnot,
Kong.
where, you know, if you're more into his cult stuff, you'd be into Bad Taste and Meet the Feebles. They kind of go hand in hand together. But this is one that stood the test of time. There's definitely not another movie out there like that. And if you can find it, definitely throw down the cash for it. This is definitely a movie every collector should have in their home collection.
Now, why did you pick this movie? I have a theory about this, and I want to see if I'm right.
It's one I just watched again recently. It's been a few years since I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife's never seen it, so I'm like, oh, you gotta check it out. And
yeah, people don't believe this movie exists whenever I tell them about it. They go, there's no way this thing exists.
Right, and it does. It's definitely a lot of puppet porn and a lot of bodily fluids. And sometimes accents are hard to follow with it being Australian and the sound quality not being that great. But overall, it stood the test of time. Like, I expected to revisit it and it feel very dated, very Not current, but it really held up well for going on, 29 years old, so...
I thought, here, I want to tell you my theory. I thought you watched this after seeing the preview for the Happy Time Murders.
No, I haven't even seen that preview yet, so...
Oh, this is really ironic. For our listeners that aren't aware of this movie, there is a movie right now that is coming out, like, I think it's in August. It is made by Brian Henson. It will be you'll be able to see this not on Netflix or something. It'll be available at the cinema house. And it is called The Happy Time Murders. And it is like the filthiest Muppet movie that Brian Henson could muster. Famously, the preview for the movie is Red Band trailer. It's a Red Band trailer for a Brian Henson movie. It stars Melissa McCarthy. I think you got Elizabeth Banks, Joel McHale, Maya Rudolph, I think, is in there. Couple other, like SNL alum. And it's based on the preview. It's pretty raunchy, but I don't think it comes close to what Meet the Feebles is. Meet the Feebles, to me, when I saw it, it was almost like, what's the one with Divine? Pink Flamingos? It was almost like there's a contest. How can we be the most disgusting with these puppets as possible? And that's what Meet the Feebles is. I don't think that's going to be going on with Happy Time Murders, but that doesn't mean they're not going to have... They have a jizz joke right in the preview. So, yeah, you have to check it out, Adam. I really want to hear your opinion after you see that preview. But
yeah, I'll have to check it out. I'm gonna agree with you though and say they have a long way to go to top Meet the Feebles from the same.
Dude, it's just obscene puppets. What is so great about this movie?
Nothing like it's been done before or since. I mean,
Maybe there's a reason.
Well, it is funny. It's funny.
Hilarious.
It's weird. It's a parody. See, and you say there's nothing before or since, but I can think of like Greg the Bunny and Death to Smoochie. It's really kind of a treatise on children's television in particular.
So there is a plot to the movie? It's not just puppets throwing up and fucking?
Yeah, no, it's kind of a behind-the-scenes debauchery of the Feebles. The Feebles are, in this case, to Americanize it, it'd be behind the scenes of the Muppets.
Yeah,
so you think everything's hunky-dory, and, it's kind of a parody of Hollywood in its own way, too.
Yeah, it is... let me put it this way, Drew, and it's been probably 7-8 years since I last saw this film. It's worth seeing. I don't know that it's a movie I would be popping in the VHS machine, because that's how I have this one. Every 5-6 years, it's one I definitely can let sit a while before I see it again. But it kind of fills in some blanks as far as Peter Jackson. And it kind of explains some of his newer movies, some of the stuff that's going on, and it does show some change over time. The special effects have gotten a little more expensive that he's working with. But, some of the kind of weirder things that he does... it's things like Dead Alive, and I think in particular Bad Taste, where you really get a feel for some of that. coming out. I still feel his best movie is The Frighteners.
Is Andy Serkis in this movie?
Andy Serkis actually plays that hippo character that you see. A lot of people don't know this, but Andy Serkis is from Australia, and he was a friend of Peter Jackson, and that's how he got that job, is just because he was willing to put on that green suit and do that, and it turns out he's a pretty damn good actor. Are either of you believing me right now?
No.
I thought he was like a contortionist or something, and then I don't know.
Yeah, it's one to see. That's for sure. Now, had you ever heard of this at all, Drew?
No.
You never heard of Meet the Feebles? This is one of those movies that a lot of people talk about, and not a lot of people have seen, because it's so far off the beaten path. But I'm glad, Adam, that you were able to track down a copy, because I remember I found mine at, I think it was Blockbuster, and it was one of those previewed. I'd have to grab the VHS and look what stickers are still sitting on it. It was either that or Planet Video, and I got it for like $5, and I'm like, are you kidding me? This movie's impossible to find.
That's how I lucked into this one. Unfortunately, our local last independent video store was closing.
Yeah.
And I was surprised they still had this. I couldn't pass it up after not seeing it for several years and the wife not seeing it at all. It's one I could definitely see us watching on a weekly basis, just
really?
because. Oh yeah, it hits all the right notes with us. I mean,
God.
Yeah, we love weird stuff as far as horror and movies in general go, and comedy-wise, it kind of hits all the right notes for me. So.
Yeah, I don't know that I could watch this too close together. This is one that really spent me. There's a lot to it.
I mean, The Fly alone is the newspaper reporter developing film in a toilet tank.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just good stuff right there.
You know what's amazing with a movie like this is the amount of creativity that goes into it, and then nobody sees it. You know,
right?
I mean,
right.
This movie, like you say, there isn't really a whole lot like this, but it is just completely out there. It wasn't like yet another, shark movie on Sci-Fi Channel, or it's another rom-com. I just saw Ocean's 8 last night. That is yet another heist film. You're not going to be able. It's really difficult to say what this movie's like. Death to Smoochie is one of them I can think of, and Greg the Bunny, and not a whole lot else that I can think of.
Right, and I can definitely see the comparison to those, even though those are way toned down.
Oh, yeah.
If somebody asked me what it was like, those would be the best two examples.
Right, but both of those are like one's a TV show, and I think Death to Smoochie might have been PG-13, but it wasn't R. This movie, I think, is like an NC-17.
17, yeah, it's definitely unrated as far as that goes, unless it got a hard R because it's puppets instead of actual people. Right. But
I do think you're right though, Drew. You said, what about Ted? I think that might be one. Maybe Team America might be in there, but that's mostly just because it's a puppet. That would be the only reason. The subject matter is what really makes this. It's one thing to have gross puppets. It's another thing to have gross puppets in reference to a children's show. There's just something that makes it worse when it's like that.
Right, and what is it? Within the first 5 minutes of this, you see a drug deal being made, and then the head programmer of the show, like, getting it on in his office while they're filming rehearsal or whatever. It's just, this is balls to the wall from beginning to end. As far as the debauchery and the parodies and everything goes with it.
By the way, our chat room did some research for us, and it does look like Death to Smoochie was R-rated, but mostly because they said the word "fuck" in there, and that's all they really needed. But this movie, I don't think there's any doubt would be R-rated at minimum. And I would say this is one of those movies I just wouldn't let anywhere near a kid. Just nowhere near it. This is.
That's a lot coming from you.
No, I'm usually.
It shows a lot you'll put near a kid.
Well, yeah, I don't care. But as long as they're not anyone I know, here, kid, watch this. But this is very, very hardcore.
Yeah, it's I just checked and it's unrated, so
yeah,
it's
definitely
not for kids.
All right, well, are you ready to grade it, Adam?
Yeah, I'm gonna give this an A. If it's, even though it's one of Peter Jackson's earlier films, it's held up well. And you can kind of see how he's grown from Bad Taste to The Feebles to Dead Alive to where he is now. So it's a fun watch for the whole family. Just, Friday date night, whatever.
I don't even want to be associated with you saying this is good family film. This is not a good family film. Unless the name of your film is The Manson Family. This is really not good for the kiddies. Get them out of the room. In fact, send them off to the next door neighbors or something. Don't let them be anywhere near this thing. It will mess up their little feeble minds. They shouldn't even see the cover of this VHS because they'll freak them out. Yeah, it's bizarre. It's bizarre. All right. Well, thank you very much, Adam. And it is time now for us to go down the hall to the next lecture. And we have little baby Drew face, Poos Seidler. What have you been watching?
Well, I had to go and be a little bit different and difficult this week, and I actually am going to review a interactive novel / video game.
Okay.
Because I couldn't find anything worth watching, or the things that I did watch didn't quite fit into the horror genre. And I'm just not subjecting myself to bullshit fucking horror movies anymore. So this was a fun experience, and I thought that it was worth sharing with everyone here.
I had never heard of this thing, so I'm glad you brought it to my attention.
This interactive novel is called Doki Doki Literature Club. Now, on first look, it's kind of a like a weeaboo looking kind of Japanese dating simulator. If you're aware of such things that exist, it's very much anime, and I have never been a fan of anime. I've tried. I'm like, well, I'm nerdy, right? I have to like anime, and I've tried again and again and again, and it's just all garbage to me. So, apologies for anyone.
Now, after you say that, there are so many people that are going to say, well, you just haven't seen X movie. So give us a list of some of the movies you think have sucked.
What's that?
What are some of the anime movies that you've tried that you think just suck?
I've tried to watch Dragon Ball Z. I was just not interested. I saw Vampire Hunter D, and it was okay. Mm-hmm. Advent Children, which is based off of the Final Fantasy universe, was okay. Again, I'm just not a big fan of it.
Okay.
What was the other one? The Avatar. I tried to watch that. Not a big fan. What else was there? Is it
Akira.
something Jack on
Oh,
Cartoon Network?
Samurai Jack.
Samurai Jack.
That's not really anime. No.
Bleach I've tried to watch. Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, Cowboy Bebop's one. Yeah, we're already the chat room's coming with Guyver as one to try. The one I tell people, I'm kind of with you on this, Drew, but the
Same
one
here.
that I enjoy is one called Riding Bean. It's basically a 1980s action movie, a hard R 80s action movie. It's even set in Chicago, and about driving fast cars and blah blah blah. So, but okay, that's enough of a little. We're gonna go off on some tangents tonight because Mike ain't here, so we got an hour to fill. So okay, get back to Doki Doki Literature Club, there, Drew.
So I heard a lot about this on horror gaming sites and stuff like that. And looking at it, I couldn't get it through my skull that this was ever going to be anything but shitty anime. But it was developed by Team Salvato, obviously lead designer Dan Salvato, lead designer and programmer, and a writer and composer. It has very much the kawaii kind of anime music that you would think in the art style. And for about the first 2.5, 3 hours of reading this, it really feels like a Japanese dating sim. There's your best friend from forever, whose name is Sayori. There is, the captain of the cheerleading squad type, whose name is Monica. There is the kind of shy, bookworm, kind of intelligent one named Yuri. And I think finally there is this kind of young firecracker named Sakuri.
Okay.
And you kind of you get into this literature club right after school, and you'll pick certain words that you would associate with whichever girl you want to get to know better, basically. So that at the end of every day in the game, you go home and you have to write a poem to share with the rest of the class. And depending on what word you choose, affects which girl likes you the best, right? So after doing this for, like I said, about 3 hours, and just thinking, why am I doing this? But I was surprised at how invested I was in the characters at that time. The writing is good. It's adult. And I don't mean adult as in swearing all the time, but adult as in just above young adult novels, like say Twilight-esque, right? So you could invest yourself. It speaks to anxiety and depression, and real life adult stuff that I could connect with. And then about 3/4 of the way in, it starts to break the fourth wall on you, and this is where the horror part comes in. Because your best friend, I'm going to spoil the shit out of this for everybody, by the way. Out of nowhere, your best friend, you walk into her house because she's usually late for school. She's sleeping a lot. And you find her quite gruesomely hanging from her ceiling. And the game says it ends. The end brings you back to the beginning, right? Start new game, continue settings. You're like, what in the fuck just happened? So you start it again, and it starts to glitch. All of these kind of tropes, which is breaking the fourth wall, kind of AI tropes, start to happen. Okay. Dialogue that was once there that talked about Sayori is now is redacted. So you keep going on and going through basically a lot of the same dialogue, except sometimes it'll glitch up and say something really fucked up about one of the girls. Like Yuri, for instance, is a cutter, and they'll graphically go into detail about her cutting herself and her favorite knives, and they'll show her cutting herself and making these weird noises. and uh, she gets like overly attached girlfriend syndrome kind of a thing
Okay.
until she professes her love to you and then stabs herself repeatedly over and over again in the stomach and chest. And in game time,
Ain't that sweet?
it's quote unquote glitched out. So you have to wait 2 days of game time staring at her dead corpse until it's eventually revealed that Monica is actually, who is the president of this literature club, is actually a rogue AI who knows what's happening in the real world and has fallen in love with you and has tried to make these other characters so unlikable that you'll fall in love with her, to the point where the game will start to take over your mouse, your controls. It'll start to eventually. It alludes to deleting her character file from local files in your computer base in the game. So once you go in and delete Monica's character out of the files in your local, your local file directory for the game, she starts to disappear and the game starts over again.
Mm-hmm.
The game starts over again, and now Sayori's back, Monica's gone, and you think it's going to be a happy ending. And now that Sayori is the president, I guess being the president of the club comes with this fourth wall kind of knowing of what's going on.
Yeah.
She tells you that she's happy for what you did to Monica, and now she gets to be with you forever, and like holy shit, it starts all over again. So eventually Monica comes back into the role and deletes everybody, deletes the game again, and in order to actually, if you want to replay and try to get a different ending, you have to uninstall the game and reinstall it again. So that's just kind of a cool interactive way to kind of get into your head, get into your psyche a little bit, especially when it's so unexpected and the tone of the game has been set for so long as very lighthearted and fun.
Yeah.
To see stuff that's that dark and fucked up, it got me, that's for sure. This is one of the best experiences I've had in a long time as far as psychological horror.
Wow. So this thing took you how long total to get through?
About 5 hours.
About 5 hours. Wow.
And it's free.
Yeah.
So that's the best if you want to play it. It's Mac OS or Mac, Windows, and Linux. Just go to Doki Doki Literature Club.com and you can download it there for free.
Fantastic. Well, I think a few people might do that. I'm not sure I want a program that looks like it's hacking my computer on my good computer. I'll have to pull one of the old ones out and maybe do it on there.
There's some other games that do the same thing.
That's why no games are allowed on the production computer, Drew. No games.
The Island comes to mind. What's another one that does it? Anyway, there's been a couple of games that have done this kind of a thing, and this I think pulled it off, in my opinion, the best of the ones that I've played, at least.
Fantastic. All right, well, it's that time. Oh, jeez. It's that time. What did you think of Doki Doki Literature Club? What is your grade?
I mean, you can get so much more invested in these characters through this means of media than you could from any movie, in my opinion. So because of that investment that you take there and the time length, you got to give it an A.
An A. All right, fantastic. That is great to hear. So people should run out there and download it immediately, right?
Yep, it's free.
Yep. All right. Well, it's time for me. I don't know why I ever started this pressing this button. There we go. I have the brand new movie just came out, I think, on Friday, called
It did.
Hereditary. And I actually saw it on Friday evening. Um, in
Was it a packed movie house?
I would say about 3/4. It was about 3/4 full. But it was the smallest theater in the entire cinema house. That screen was the smallest, but from what I hear, it did fairly decent. It didn't beat out like Ocean's 8 or anything, but it did get in the top 5 for the weekend. It was in 4th. It brought in about $13 million. The budget for Hereditary is $10 million, so it's already made some money for them. Though, quite frankly, that's the budget. This movie, I think, spent a ton on marketing, if I'm any sort of judge, because it seemed like I couldn't get away from this trailer, and then there was all the, let's call them news stories, that were all over the place about, this is the most frightening trailer you're ever going to see. And this trailer was put in front of Peter Rabbit by mistake, and parents were so upset, and, all this stuff. They pulled every marketing trick. Yeah, it did happen someplace. Well, that's what the story is. But I remember hearing all the time, oh, this is the most frightening trailer you're going to see. This is the scariest movie since The Exorcist. Well, you know what? First of all, every time I hear that a movie is the scariest since The Exorcist, it pisses me off. Because I'm like, wait a minute. Until people have actually seen this movie, don't start that bullshit. Okay? Exorcist is a pretty high mark. Let's ease up on the hype. Because Paranormal Activity did that. I love Paranormal Activity. It's not The Exorcist, kids. It isn't that great. So let me just start. I'm checking my time so I don't overdo this. But let me just start by saying, if you're judging a comedy, you judge it by how many laughs it gets, right? For me, a horror movie, it's how disturbed do I become or how frightened, right? So
Right.
Yeah.
those are basically, that's kind of, sometimes a movie
How uneasy do you feel?
Yeah, unease, right? Well, first of all, this movie practically put me to sleep not once, not twice, but 3 times.
That little girl creeps me out just looking at her face. She looks like she's 75 years old, but in the body of like a 6-year-old little girl.
She is an unusual looking young lady. And
Cuts off birds' heads in the ceiling.
she's disturbed in some way or shape or form. And I am not, for those of you watching, I am not going to spoil this movie. I know nobody could have talked me out of going to see this film. You're probably going to go see this. I just want to tell you my opinion about it. Here's my opinion on this movie.
That's my kid. I left her in the back of a hot car on a summer day.
Oh, so you've seen it. But
almost as bad as the kid from The Babadook. Just take both of those kids and throw them in a trash compactor.
Well, hey, read the reviews of this thing. I cannot believe how many times they're talking about heightened horror, which is my new favorite, I hate it term. Heightened
What's
horror.
that even mean?
Okay, I looked that up because it's been pushed a lot since Quiet Place made all that money.
A Quiet Place was great.
That movie is awesome.
Yeah, it was excellent. But they call it heightened horror. Why? Well, they paid for actual stars that people know. Okay, that I'll give them that one. But
so did Halloween.
But like Babadook didn't have any celebrities.
No.
It Follows didn't have, but those are always part of the heightened horror. So I'm like, okay, that's just has an actual budget horror. Okay, but they're always saying it has a higher meaning
for the sake of gore. That's slasher.
No, they're not really saying that they have to be off of gore. They're saying it has to have something more to it, and that's what kind of bothers me. It basically says any movie that isn't this heightened horror, if it's a horror movie, it's just trash. Now, you know me, I'm stating all the time, we got a lot of trash we put out in this show that we talk about. A lot of
we do put a lot of trash out in this show.
Oh my god, yeah. Well, every episode actually. But I mean, we talk about a lot of crappy movies. I would never have known Cannibal Killer Clowns on Dope existed, but you guys decided to talk about it. I went and saw Things from 1989, one of the worst experiences of my life. There's a lot of crap out there. I'm the first to say that. I'm also the first to say, Friday the 13th, Part 75 probably is not the most engaging of all the films that I've ever seen in my life. However, that doesn't mean you can take an entire genre of horror and just say, oh, it's all crap, except for these because the critics like it. That just pisses me off. And so I will admit, I went into this movie, I wanted to see a horror film, but I was a little irritated by some of the things I had even seen in the trailer. And we're showing the trailer on a loop over here. One of the shots is where they're all around a grave, and then they pan down and you see the grass kind of moving and it goes into the dirt, okay? Very fancy type of camera work, and just trying to make the movie, I like to say, like Hitchcock light. They're trying to do all these things instead of telling the story. Now, here's what I will say. The story, the plot of the movie is extremely tight. And what I mean by that is every sentence that they say early in the movie, it does relate to something later in the movie. You even though I was like nearly asleep, you better stay awake, because if you miss one of those lines, it won't fill in the entire story. It's very well constructed from a script standpoint. My main issue was it took fucking forever. And I'm going to put up a visual aid up on the screen here. This is another one of the viral marketing stories that's out there, where they strapped a Apple Watch to somebody while watching the film, and they kept track of their heart rate, right? I'm looking at this, and I'm completely baffled, because there aren't that many scares in the movie. I will tell you, there's a movie 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes into the flick, there's like an opening inciting incident that occurs. And then you sit, and you wait, and you wait, and you wait. And nothing seems to happen for a very, very lengthy portion of time, until things, near the end, it really starts to speed up again. But, I mean, you are sitting a long time. And all they're doing is they're setting up exposition for what's going to be the reveal. Now, I do appreciate that Morris the Explainer didn't come out and say, well, here's what's going on, everybody. I appreciated that, okay? So I'm not going to take a complete dump on the film. I also think it was competently made, and as much as I'm kind of ripping into their camera moves and stuff, this director knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. The problem I had is they probably had a good 40-minute movie here, and it took over, something like 2 hours to get
2 hours and 7 minutes.
Is it 2 hours 7 minutes? That's obnoxious. Yeah. They got 40 minutes of movie in here. One of my big problems as well is in the movie. I'll give you the genre of movie this is. This is the slow descent into madness trope, okay? And,
like Bug?
I'm not going to get too deep
they look
into
like
that.
People?
I don't want to give anything away. But Toni Collette, who is the main character, she is in slow descent into madness, right? So usually, in the slow descent into madness, you start where you're pretty normal, and then you slowly become less normal, right? That would be the slow descent into madness. I swear to God, you know, most movies are shot out of sequence. I swear to God, this movie was assembled out of sequence. Because her slow descent into madness, 1 minute she's screaming, she's just inconsolable. 5 minutes later, she's like, yeah, what's going on? She's working on stuff. She's okay. You know, her job is she's an artist that makes doll houses and then tries to sell them for a lot of money or something.
That's not a job.
Well, that's what she does. Okay,
Stupid.
don't blame me for this nonsense. So, but don't take it out on me, Bubba. But she'll be working on that almost contentedly, almost whistling, and 5 seconds later, she is so completely traumatized she can't speak. And I kind of understand that when you're grieving, you have your good days, you have your bad days. Okay, I'll grant you that. I'll give that to you. But this is sometimes within a sequence where it's like over 15 minutes of, you know, real life time. And I'm like, well, this is stupid at this point. And a lot of people are giving blowjobs to Toni Collette's acting in this movie. And I'm kind of like, I saw that as one of the detriments to the film. Was her acting, because she was so all over the fucking place. Everybody wants to kiss this movie's ass. I saw people leave the theater. I did have a hard time with the audience because, first of all, you know this from the trailer. The little girl does this with her mouth. She does like a clicking with her mouth.
God, now I hate her even more.
I can't tell you how many fucking idiots in the audience are doing at different times trying to scare each other because there's nothing else to do. You know, the movie's just going on and on and on. And what's bad is at certain points during the movie, they use the surround sound to good effect with that business going on. And it again, it's a very well constructed film, but because the audience is fucking around so much, it kind of ruins it. And there was a guy back to my right that literally was snoring in the show. So I was like, well, he's probably having a better time than I am right now because it was rough. Again, I think the script's put together. Here's another thing. It's one of those movies where you figure out what's going on well before the people on screen. Part of the reason is the movie moves at such a snail's pace, you got nothing better to do than figure out the puzzle. If the movie would have been at a normal pace, like, you know, a movie maker usually makes, you probably wouldn't have deciphered it because it'd be moving along. This thing is moving so slow, you're like, oh, that's what's happening. Okay. But here's the bad thing. When you finally do find out, okay, this is what's going on, and bad things are going to happen and stuff, the payoff is pathetic. Terrible. Not a lot of people die. There should have been more death and destruction considering what this thing ends up being. The supernatural elements are muted until you're like in the last 10 minutes of the movie. Well, I'm sorry. Expecting me to sit there, what was it, 2 hours and 7 minutes? Well, some of that's credits. Probably to have me sit for an hour 50 minutes with nothing fucking happening, and then all of a sudden we're going to start doing some stuff. You're asking a lot of your audience at that point. That's a big ask. So now the one thing I'll mention is critics are loving this movie. So maybe I'm just not the people for it. I know a lot of people like The Witch, like you have mentioned. Drew, I can't remember if it was on air or before the show, but
Yeah,
I don't.
it's the same studio too.
I don't like
Yeah,
the Vitch.
24 did this.
Yeah, I don't like the Vitch, but I probably liked it more than this one.
Wow.
And I sometimes I like a slow burn, but I like a slow burn that is interesting throughout the slow burn. This one was not interesting. It just kept going on. It kept going on, and it kept making points that I didn't care about. Now, what I noticed in the Box Office Mojo story that I reviewed, they had a D plus from Cinema Score. Now that just beats what the Vitch had at C minus, but Witch went on to make 25 million. This one's probably at a better pace at 12 million for opening weekend. I don't know if this movie is going to have legs though. The reason The Quiet Place just kept printing money and it kept printing money, the people that wanted to see it saw it opening weekend, but the people that saw Quiet Place and the people that saw it went home and told all their friends and all their neighbors and everybody they work with what a great movie it is. This movie, I think people get home and they say, whatever you do, don't go out and see this fucking thing. Wait till it's on Netflix. There's no reason to see this movie. It turns out to be a duplicate of, and I'm not going to tell you what movie it's a duplicate of, but after you're done seeing the movie, shoot me an email, send me an IM, and I'll tell you if it's the same movie I'm thinking of. There's a classic movie that this thing is basically a duplicate of in many, many ways. And
Forrest Gump.
My God, you thought of it. Wow. I thought it was your favorite.
So
You know what it was?
Nice.
Drew, a little baby Drew face, Poos Seidler. I thought it was your favorite movie, Beaches. I thought it was just
I don't know
like
what
that
this movie
film.
is that you're saying Beaches.
Yeah, shut up. You watch it all the time because you're always singing The Wind Beneath My Wings. It's just something that you do. We all understand it. That's fine. That's your particular issue. That's part of your character, and we love you so much for that, little baby Drew face, Poos Seidler. But it's really inappropriate, and you just should stop doing this. So, okay.
No.
We are now going to give this one a grade. This is where I have to press 5 things at once. Okay. So, I might have been a little subtle in what I thought of the movie. So, I want to make it very, very clear. I thought there was some good movie making going on here, but I don't think it's a good movie. So I give it a little bit of credit for being good movie making and for the tight script. The script all makes sense at the end, but it's dull. So it gets a D for dull. I'm giving it a D minus, just squeaking out of the F territory. I'm sorry, a horror movie should not be dull. And frankly, that's the other item I have to point out. You're not scared. There is a shocking incident that happens in that first third to end the first act of the movie. Then you got a lot of blach, and then you got even more blach. And then at the end of the third act, things start happening. But by that time, you just want everybody to die and be done with it and move on. You're just sitting there and you're going, when I drive home, I think I'm going to take the freeway instead of the side streets. That is literally what I was thinking about while all the death that happens in the movie was going on screen. I was like, yeah, I'm done with this flick. So, a scary movie should in fact be scary. And having seen Hush so recently by Blumhouse, it doesn't have to cost a lot of money, and you can make a movie that has suspense and is scary and has a decent story, but this was not that film. So that's all I have to say about that. Drew, anything you want to tell us that's going on in East Coast Horror Group?
No, we're having a little bit of overhaul as far as the podcast goes. So we are doing a little rebranding, trying to think of some new stuff. We're going to take a little time off. If you watched or listened to the program last week, this is not news to you. I'm also working to try to add a video game aspect to the website and the YouTube page as well. So I'll be playing horror games and commenting. I don't think it's commentating.
I really don't know. Yeah, but what we're doing is we're kind of changing things up. We've been having the same type of posts and shows, and we're moving things around and trying some new things to see if there's some things that are of more interest. And really, part of that is probably you, Adam, with your new stuff that you keep putting out. It gave us an idea to try some new things. And you have a number of new articles out there on the website, right?
Yeah, I have a couple of reviews from the Crypt articles. One is Don't Go in the Woods, and the other's Corpse Grinders. Recently, Vinegar Syndrome's given them their treatment, so they're easier to find than they used to be.
Now,
But
I read both of these reviews, and I want to ask you point blank, which of them did you like more? Don't Go in the Woods or Corpse Grinders?
I'd have to say Don't Go in the Woods. They were both kind of in the C range for me if I had to give them a grade. Like, they weren't anything great, but weren't anything completely horrible either. They definitely seemed more dated than I expected.
Okay.
Yeah, they were definitely mid-grade movies for me. So if I had to pick one, I'd say I leaned more towards Don't Go in the Woods as being the better of the two.
Okay. I think that's the one I'm gonna give a try to. That one looked more interesting to me, but since I had you on the show, I thought I might as well ask you point blank. So we are trying some new things. For those that haven't noticed in the past, we do have our new program that Mike and Rich have been experimenting with, and that is called Otherworldly Culture Radio. You're definitely going to want to check that one out. And Mike wants to invite everybody out to Toy-Hio.
Toy-Hio. We're coming to Toy-Hio. We're gonna sell toys! Toy-Hio! I hope diaper shoes don't fuck it up by pooping in the aisleway. Diaper shoes!
Yeah, so that's coming. What is that, next weekend or the weekend after? I can't remember.
No, it's actually this Saturday.
Oh, it is this Saturday already.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So everybody get your butts out there. It is going to be a fantastic time at Toy-Hio. We're just about out of time. Want to remind everybody to reach out to us at our email at eastcoasthg@gmail.com. And I think our next show is after July 4th. I'm pretty sure. No, we have one more before July 4th. So I'm not going to wish you a happy July 4th weekend yet. But I am going to wish that you come back and see our next program in about 2 weeks for From Dusk... No, not From Dusk to God. That show is on hiatus. For Dead On Movie Reviews, our next time, you can check our Facebook page to see when the next one of those shows is on. And, of course, you can always check our live website page, and that will always tell you what live show we have coming up next. So stay tuned there and never miss an episode. So on behalf of the Faculty of Fear, want to wish you a good evening, and we suggest that you sleep with your lights on. Whatever you do, don't run, because that would make you just a poos-poos sissy.
Whoa.